Sometimes a job provides a simple paycheck. Other times, a specialized, skill-based trade shapes a person's entire identity. We call that deep connection a vocation. In the story of The Potmaker, this concept comes to life through a young girl named Scintilla. She is desperately drawn to the traditional art of making pots. Her mother, Erin, is an expert potter herself, yet she vehemently opposes her daughter's dream. Erin insists that Scintilla must learn weaving instead. She argues that weaving offers a far better life. It is clean, it is comfortable, and the work happens entirely indoors, safe from the harsh elements. Scintilla is caught between two distinct futures: the clean, indoor life of the weaver her mother demands, and the gritty, physical labor of the craft she actually loves. This passage from the text lays out the brutal logistics of Erin's trade. The riverbank where they gather clay is 16 kilometers away. It requires climbing down a sheer drop, digging out heavy earth, and carrying that load uphill all the way home. The physical toll continues once the clay is finally home. The next phase involves pounding the stubborn clay inside bamboo cylinders to soften it. It is exhausting work that routinely leads to dropped molds and lost batches. The vocabulary section at the bottom of the page defines this reality. Pounding is repeated beating, and the process is relentlessly tedious. Then there is the economic disparity. After months of exhausting physical labor to produce a single batch of pots, the financial reward is a mere pittance. Compare that to a woven shawl, which takes far less time to make and yields what Ernleila calls a handsome financial return. Logically, Ernleila is completely right. Analyzed purely through the lens of physical effort and financial income, choosing to be a traditional potter is a terrible career move. Despite her mother's flawless logic, Scintilla cannot suppress her passion. She begins a shadow education, sneaking away on days her parents are working the fields to closely observe the expert potters in the village. To Scintilla, the grueling physical labor disappears. She is captivated by the way the malleable clay transforms. The regular tap-tap of the wooden spatula against the wet earth acts like music, forging a hypnotic connection to the craft. But bridging the gap between observation and practice proves disastrous. When Scintilla attempts to shape the dough with Erenla standing over her, the heavy weight of expectation paralyzes her. She freezes in shame and frustration, while her mother effortlessly steps in and takes over. Raw passion is a necessary starting point, but it guarantees nothing. An environment of heavy criticism can easily stifle undeveloped talent before it ever has a chance to take shape. The narrative shifts as Scintilla comes of age. Following local custom, she leaves home to stay in one of the village's traditional girls' dormitories. This dormitory is supervised by a kind, middle-aged widow named Anula. Having heard about the intense friction in Scintilla's family, Anula watches the young girl closely. A crucial opportunity arrives one evening when the rest of the girls leave for a musical event. Scintilla stays behind, quietly pulling a hidden stash of clay and tools from her basket to practice alone. Anula walks in and catches her in the act. Instead of reprimanding Scintilla, Anula sits down. She provides the patient, quiet guidance that Scintilla's mother had refused to offer. The successful transfer of a difficult traditional skill rarely happens through observation alone. It requires a mentor willing to nurture the student's raw attempts, rather than demanding immediate perfection. A year passes, and a strict deadline emerges. On a bright, sunny day, a massive batch of pots must be crafted quickly before they lose the precious hours of sunlight required to dry the clay. Early in the process, Erenla stops working. Complaining of a sudden headache and backache, she abruptly leaves the workshed, instructing Scintilla to try and make as many pots as she possibly can on her own. The text leaves a deliberate ambiguity hanging in the air. Was the veteran potter truly incapacitated by the labor she always complained about, or was this a calculated test to force her daughter to step up? Whatever Erenla's intent, the outcome is the same. Scintilla is finally alone in the workshed, left with only her own hands to finish the job. Surprised, but prepared by her secret sessions with Anula, Scintilla takes her position. She coordinates her hands flawlessly, beating the dough into a perfect rhythm, and successfully assumes control of the entire production. By mastering the clay, Scintilla answers the debate her mother posed at the start. She knowingly accepts the 16-kilometer hikes and the tedious pounding because the joy of the craft outweighs the physical cost. This specific dedication appears again in a later story in the textbook about a masterful bootmaker named Mr. Gessler. For true craftsmen, grueling work is never a simple economic trade. As Mr. Gessler proudly puts it, it is an art. The physical toll of pot making remains exactly as her mother described it, but as Scintilla matches the rhythm of the spatula, she isn't thinking about the long trek or the pittance of a wage. She is doing the work for its own sake, a choice that rarely makes financial sense, but for a craftsman makes perfect sense.